guys, Amy here. Just wanted to come on before this episode starts and let you guys know that in this episode we were talking about a college movie from Hallmark in 2010, and it does deal with some mature themes, and we wanted to make sure that you guys knew that we'll be discussing those mature themes throughout this episode just before it started. So in case this isn't your style, if you don't want to listen to something that has some college-related mature themes, you can go ahead, skip this episode. That's totally fine, and we will see you guys all in the next episode. But other than that, if you guys are going to keep listening, I hope you enjoy, and have a great day.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies Podcast, and we have a special extra episode for you guys today, and we are celebrating all of the graduates of 2020. We have our very own graduate here today. Our co-host, Amy, is a graduate of college. This is very exciting. Congratulations, Amy.
Thank you. Yay, I did
it. Woohoo! That's so amazing. And we all know because of quarantine that graduations have been canceled as far as the ceremonies. And so we decided we are going to give Amy her sort of her graduation celebration here on the podcast and talk about the first movie that we thought of when it comes to graduation. We're going to talk about Freshman Father, but before we talk about that, Amy, so you tell us a little bit, what are you graduating from, what school and what degree and all that fun stuff?
So I go to Cal State University Fullerton. I wore my sweatshirt. And I'm graduating from the College of Humanities and Social Sciences. I am a liberal studies major. I have two majors, liberal studies and American studies. So I got my bachelor's of arts. And liberal studies, before anyone asks, because I always say that and then people say, well, what's that? Liberal studies is a cross-discipline major that is mostly for people who want to go into early elementary education. So it's a major where you do every subject basically so that you can better do that with children. I know the name liberal studies, sometimes people are like, why are you learning that? But that's not what it means. It just means that it's a cross-discipline major. And then the other one's American Studies, which is just like a more in-depth study of American history, where we study more like people and stuff like that, and how people react to historical events and stuff like that, which is my bread and butter. I was also born on the 4th of July, so American Studies worked out well. But yeah.
So what's your end goal? So you have to now do your student teaching, or what's happening next?
So yeah, in California, you're required to do a year-long program after your bachelor's degree to become a teacher. So I start that in August, and that's your teaching credential program. It's confusing because it's not considered undergraduate, but it's also not considered a graduate degree. It's just kind of there. So it's easier just to say I'm going to graduate school because it doesn't have a term. But yeah, so then hopefully I'm an elementary school teacher. I also want to focus in math. So hopefully I'll be able to teach math at some point as well also. And that's my end goal.
That's a brave woman teaching math.
That's what I do outside of the podcast. A lot of people don't know that. I actually teach mathematics to kids grades 1 to 8 outside of this. I won't start teaching you math, Rachel, like that's not
yeah, that would be probably a pretty entertaining podcast, though. I have to say I'm really bad at math, but that's so great, very commendable. Congratulations. What would you say was your favorite class that you took in college? What was your least favorite class?
So my favorite class was probably like 2 semesters ago, I think, and it was one of my like final classes for my American Studies degree. My teacher had us bring in an object or like a thing, and we didn't really know what it was for. And this was like the first week of the semester, and so I just brought in a box of Girl Scout cookies because I happened to have them in my car. And then he told us that congratulations, for the next 15 weeks you're going to be researching this object and how it's related to like the American story. And it turned out being like a 25-page paper about Girl Scout cookies and how it related to America and stuff, which was super interesting. And I think one of my favorite parts of that class was what other people had brought in, because he just said bring in an object, and so like there was a kid who analyzed Tupperware for 15 weeks, like because it was what people had in their cars mostly. But yeah, it was a really, really interesting class, and probably definitely my favorite. And then at the end of the semester, we bought him all Tupperware as a joke. So
that sounds like a good one. Sounds like a good class.
But yeah, that was definitely one of my favorites. And yeah. Yep.
Did you have a least favorite class that was your biggest struggle?
I'm just there wasn't really, I'm trying to think of one that like I really, really struggled with. Probably though my least favorite class is, originally I was going to be a child development major instead of liberal studies, which is the other way you can go if you want to be a teacher. And my first like 3 classes for child development made me decide I didn't want to be a child development major anymore. Like those classes were just a struggle for me, because a lot of like the early child development classes are things I'd done already, since I'd been working with kids at that point for like 10 years. So those were the like biggest struggle for me, because I felt like I was doing things I'd already done. And yeah, I didn't end up liking child development. It wasn't for me. So yeah.
There you go. Yeah, my well, I had kind of professors that I would really enjoy, and then I would take like all the classes they offered, because that was more important to me than like even the topic, is that I knew that the teacher was awesome. And so I have some really random classes that I took, and sometimes those were my favorite, that like they were this little niche of the professor, usually their research or whatever. And one of my favorites was called The Political Economy of Women, and it was taught by these 2, Donnelly Bowen and Valerie Hudson, who are amazing scholars and women. And it was all about basically the situation of women in the world. And then we particularly related it back to our faith, because it was a faith-based school, and how in our doctrine about women. And it was really like personal, and really it was so good. It was such a great class. And so that one's one of my favorites for sure. And Valerie Hudson, she's just an incredible woman. If you ever she's basically like Superwoman in real life. Like, she's amazing. And so that was a really cool class. And my least favorite was definitely economics. I really struggled with economics. It was such a hard class, and because it's got like all of the like philosophy and theory and stuff part of it, but then it also has sort of the math kind of side of it also. And so it was like at the same time logical, at the same time philosophical, and I don't know, I very much struggled with it. And it was a big class, and the teacher was kind of notorious for being a really hard teacher. And I was just struggling. And his tests were incredibly difficult. And I would work really hard, and I was getting like very bad grades on the tests. And so I was just getting so discouraged. But there was a huge curve on his tests, because
that's always nice.
What's that?
I said that's always nice when they curve.
Oh, I know. Thank goodness. But so your grade was never quite as bad as you thought it was, but it's still like traumatizing. You go to the testing center and you come back with like a 40% or something, and just like terrible. Yeah. And I'd worked really, really hard. And anyway, and so I went up to him and I said, I'm gonna have to drop this class. I'm gonna have to try again next semester. And then I'm doing so bad. And so I was like upset. and he told me, he said, all right, if you turn in every paper, if you go to every extra TA session, if I know that you're, I guarantee you'll pass this class. I guarantee. And I'm like, can I get that in writing? And I'm like, okay. And so I did. I was at every TA session. I was at every, and I ended up getting a C-, which is like I passed the class.
Have you ever heard of the saying, C's get degrees?
Yeah, that's right.
Every time I'd be freaking out about an assignment or something, my mom would always be like, sweetie, C's get degrees. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not what I'm shooting for.
I worked harder for that C- than I did for most of the A's I got. I was super proud of it.
Good job. What you never said, what was your like official undergrad and then your graduate major?
Oh yeah. So I had a Bachelor of Arts in political science was my major. So yeah, and then like you didn't really have an official emphasis, but you had to pick your what's called your senior capstone, and that was kind of your emphasis. Was so you could do like international relations, you could do I can't even American politics. I think I can't remember, but I picked political philosophy. And I particularly had a professor that I loved named Matt Holland, and he's now president of the university here, UVU, Utah Valley University. But I had him as a professor, and I actually got to work for him as a teaching assistant, and that was an amazing experience. It was such a positive experience because I admired him so much, and for me to be grading papers and grading tests and things like that for Dr. Holland was just like, what? I mean, I felt really inadequate, but he believed in me, and that meant a lot to me. It meant a lot to me, and so one of probably my favorite jobs I've ever had was being a teaching assistant when I was in college. It was great. And I remember one time I had to, he was gone or he was late or something. Anyway, I ended up having to teach the whole class, but it was lucky because it was a class I'd ended up taking 3 times. So I knew the material really well, and I was just like, hi, like trying to, and but I loved that. I loved that job, and I loved Dr. Holland. He is an amazing person, and was a really great mentor to me. So that was really fun.
That's so cool.
I loved college. I was so excited to go to a place where I wasn't in the minority as far as my religion, because I had been one of the only people that were Latter-day Saints in my high school. There were only a couple of us, and so for me to go to a place where I was more accepted meant a lot to me. And I know I just had so much fun. I had a great time in college. I had so many great classes, and it was just, if I were to go back to any part of my life, like that would definitely be where I would go. It was the happiest time of my life. It was stressful, and there was some really hard parts too of that time in my life. My grandpa and 2 of my cousins died in 1 year. So that was incredibly difficult. 2001 was, and that was the year of 9/11. So it was just like this powder keg year. It was really hard. But it was also a really sweet time too. A lot of really, just, I don't know, you just changed so much during that time of your life. And I mean, I know you've been at home. You've been a home tutor.
I went to a commuter school, and I think like 95% of the students at my school are commuters. So like all of us were that way. But I do agree, like it was nice being in a place, especially since my school specifically does specialize in people who want to be teachers. Like it was great compared to high school, like being around people who wanted to do the same thing as me was really nice, because now I have a ton of friends that are all going to be teachers or in administration or somehow go into education in some way or another. And it's really nice to like be around those like-minded people.
Were you in like any clubs or anything like that, or?
I technically was part of the Harry Potter club, but they always had meetings when I was in class, so I never went. And then the student associations for both my majors, but neither of them did very much, so I wasn't really part of. That's the only like downside of a commuter school is Like, I went to class, and then unless I had something else to do on campus, I went home most of the time. And that's what a majority of people did, because, you know, most of my classmates had children, or, you know, we were working jobs or whatever. Like, we weren't on campus all the time, which I think was a cool element, because, like, all of us, I feel like, had a lot more responsibility than maybe if I had not gone to a commuter school. But at the same time, like, you know, I didn't get that, like, college experience. Not that I ever wanted the college experience of dorms. That's why I went to a commuter school, because I didn't want that experience. But, like, that was something I didn't have, I guess. Not that that's, like, hey, if you want to be in a dorm, go for it. Me, personally, I was like, I am fine with my cats, and I like my family. So.
Yeah. I did love being at the dorms, and we had a pass you could get, a sports pass. And I'm not like a huge sports person, but I just like being with people and going and doing, like, it didn't matter to me what we were doing. It just mattered we were doing something to me. And so we would get the sports pass, and you could go to pretty much any game or anything you want. And then we would go and go to the games together, go to the volleyball games, because we were particularly good at volleyball that year. And BYU was often pretty good at volleyball randomly. Anyway, and we would go to soccer games and stuff like that. And just, it was just such a great time. But one of the things I definitely felt like, I don't know if you felt any of this, because you have more of a career goal than I did. But when I graduated, it was just kind of surreal. It was like, I can't believe this thing that you plan your whole life, you talk about it and you plan for it, it's done.
It's weird, because, like, my whole family are teachers. I wanted to be a teacher my whole life. And now I'm, like, in this point where, like, a year or two from now, I could have my own classroom, and that's, like, completely bonkers to me. Now, of course, this is happening during a very, very difficult time. So, like, we don't know what education is going to look like in the fall, and that is terrifying.
Because
I'm like, terrifying. I want to be an elementary school teacher. Like, do you know how much those kids touch each other? Like, it's like completely unknown now, which I think is, like, adding to, at least myself and my friends I've talked to as well, who are going into early elementary education. Like, all of us are like, we don't know what our career now that we've been training for is going to look like. And that's really a scary thing.
You might be behind the camera a lot more than you think.
See, that's where I'm fortunate to have a lot of experience with cameras and stuff, but some of my friends who, like, don't want to be on camera and, you know, freeze up, I'm like, oh goodness, this is gonna be interesting. So, but, you know, also on the plus side, I do have that history of, like, half of my classes pretty much were online. So, like, I know how to use those systems and stuff. So if I do have to teach online, I know how to. But
that's really interesting.
It's going to be a learning experience for everybody, and hopefully it all will work out for the best. But we're just going to have to wait and see. So fingers crossed everything goes well, and then I can still go into education. We don't even know if that's a possible, like, we don't know what's going to happen. So, like, we'll see.
That'll be it'll be great to follow you and see what happens, because it's going to be this whole thing. I mean, nobody knows what's going to happen next.
So,
you just have to try your best.
I always have a backup. I can, like, freelance edit, I guess, online.
We're all figuring it out every step of the way. But all right, well, let's dive into our movie of choice. We were trying to think of a movie about college, and the one, because most Hallmark movies are about older people, but the one that I thought of was Freshman Father from 2010, and so it's an old school Hallmark movie. I don't know if it's Hallmark Hall of Fame or not.
I don't think so. I've looked it up on Wikipedia. It is a true story, though.
Yes, so based on a true story, and it stars our good friend Drew Seeley, who we had on the podcast, so that was fun. And so let's talk about it. And what were your overall thoughts about this film?
wow, this is not a current Hallmark movie. There's no way this would air on Hallmark. Like, they wouldn't even re-air this movie, okay? I was like, whew. But I think it was cute. I mean, budget definitely wasn't there. Some of the dialogue wasn't my favorite, but it was cute. It was sweet. It was different from what we currently watching. I feel like I was more watching like all those old movies me and Casey covered and Lisa covered like last year. Like,
yeah, I mean, basically it were. Yeah, I mean, this was this movie. It definitely, you can feel the lack of a budget for sure, and so I don't think it is a Hall of Fame actually, because you can feel the lack of budget here, and just I don't know, and just you can just feel it in the filming and the everything
like,
about.
They're like, they go two places the entire movie. Like,
right.
All in the same spot.
Yeah, and just particularly some of the touches just feel so different than what you would ever see in a Hallmark movie today. In particular, like the mean girl, we'll talk about her, but that is just something that feels so like CW to me. It feels like
I was like, this is the teen show on ABC Family or something.
Yeah,
like that.
that's right. And yeah, so this is a true story about this man from Boise. I mean, it was like, you would think that Boise was the smallest, most remote place in the entire world. Like, it kind of made me laugh.
Idaho? Like, it's a big city.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he's from like some tiny little let's see what the population of Boise, Idaho is.
Probably like 15.
Yeah, 228,000 in Boise. So not like the biggest city in the world, but still, it was kind of, they did lay that on pretty thick. And you're going to Harvard, and this is gonna save your life. This is gonna get you out of this this small town that nobody ever succeeds in. I mean, that
no one
gonna take that chance now.
Don't
get
they
out
have,
of
like 4 successful sporting teams in Boise? I'm confused.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. And so there's this whole thing. So they're prom king and queen, and it has Britt Irvin as Kathy, the girl, the mother of our child, and then we have John, who's played by Drew Seeley, and so they're prom king and queen, and this mean girl, she basically says to Britt Irvin, to Kathy, "Oh, you're just you're just gonna, like," she basically says, "Enjoy your glory moment, because it's all downhill from here." She says. And I don't know, she was just something else, this mean girl.
This was like so dramatic, like if you're not successful in high school, you'll never type of thing. Like, I was like, girl, calm down. It is the prom. It is not, in the grand scheme of things, not that big of deal. Like, oh my goodness, this girl was like not happy. She was not prom queen.
Yeah. Well, and then the mean girl, later on, she tells her, she's like, "You knew exactly what you were doing. You wanted to get your claws into into John forever."
Just insinuating that you trapped him. That's great.
Yeah, and then like the crazy thing in the movie is that later on, she basically admits that that's what she did. And I'm like, what?
This movie was bonkers, guys.
And so they have this sort of discussion outside they're outside after the prom, and they start kissing. And are we supposed to believe that they like consummated their relationship there on the grass? Like, what?
So I'm like, Oh my heavens, that school is getting kicked out of whatever venue they had that prom at. For sure. Like, they have security cameras in the morning and go, well, that high school's never allowed to come back to our venue. Like, oh my goodness. I was like,
it'd be kind of cold.
yeah, like, okay, they're in Boise, like, and it's what, May? I'm like, it's not like it's warm out. Like,
yeah, that's right.
You're on grass in front of a fountain. Like, what if someone walked out or like looked out a window? It's like, was not a good idea. Was not a good idea.
No. And so she shows up at the big graduation party or whatever, shows up, I'm pregnant.
4th of July.
Oh, was it? Okay.
They were wearing hats with the flag on it. Not just hats. Like, that could have been explained better.
But one thing that they have that you would never see in a Hallmark movie today is they actually like have a very brief discussion if she should keep the baby.
Yeah.
And you would never see that now.
Yeah,
for
that is
sure.
A big no in Hallmark today. So I was like, okay, this is an oldie. Like, we're good.
Yeah. Which I don't necessarily have any problem with someone having a discussion. That's like realistic. That's fine with me. And deciding what I don't have to have. The people in the movies that I see don't have to make the same choices as me.
I think it's very realistic though to see 2 17-year-olds.
Yeah, at least talking about it.
I think that's a very realistic ideal.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. And like all it has to be is because I would hardly see any movies if they were all made the same, because I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't, there's lots of things that people do in movies I disagree with, but it just has to feel authentic to the character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And their choices. Then, I love Dirty Dancing, and that has an abortion storyline in it. So it depends on how it's handled and what the characters are. So I thought it was, but you still would never see that now. No, for sure.
No way. They would never air this again. It will never be on. I'm surprised it's on Hallmark movies now, to be honest.
I am too, actually. I am too. But
it'll go up and it'll be off Hallmark movies now. It'll be.
And his mom is just very upset, and she is also just down on Boise. Mm-hmm. There is no hope for her child if he stays in Boise. There is no hope for his life, for his career. He is.
What is wrong with Boise?
I don't know.
It's just
I don't know.
Knock it on Boise. I'm like, I've been to Boise. It's nice. Like,
yeah, I've been there too.
It's not all potatoes like people assume. Like,
if any of our Boise listeners want to pipe in and let us know about all the career opportunities there, that would be great. But according to his mom, he says, if you stay here in Boise, you will fail. And if you don't go to Harvard, it will haunt you the rest of your life. So, yeah.
All right.
I guess he has a scholarship too, which they don't give that many scholarships to Harvard. So he's super smart, evidently. Mm-hmm. Not smart enough to use protection, but there we go. What are you going to do? So they get married. Mm-hmm. And so that's good. And that's when the mean girl's like, you knew exactly what you were doing. Like, wow. How did you feel about their chemistry, Britt Irvin and Drew Seeley?
I think they were good together, but like the whole like first hour of the movie, I was just waiting. I'm like, she's gonna die or leave, like, because there was something not clicking, and I was like, okay, when is she gonna die and or leave? Like, there's no way she's gonna stick around, because just the way they were, like the attitude they had with each other kind of thing. Like, they had chemistry, but at the same thing, I don't think it was anything more than a high school relationship type of chemistry. So I was like, all right, something's gonna happen here.
Yeah, which I think was appropriate, because it's a tricky thing, because they have to make it feel somewhat valid that a woman will leave her child. Like, that's a very unusual thing. For like, it's very rarely portrayed, like a woman leaving her child, and to try to portray it in a way that she's not like horrible. I still think she is kind of horrible, but they tried, at least, I think, to show her kind of unraveling. Yeah, I mean, they couldn't have like super great chemistry, or you wouldn't buy that she leaves.
Yeah, exactly.
So it kind of makes sense. She did feel quite a bit older to me. I don't know. I didn't look up their age difference, but
I know Drew Seeley. I looked it up. He was like 27, 28 when this movie was filmed. So
okay, yeah.
How that relates to her age.
I mean, he has a kind of a young face, so that may be part of it too. Yeah. I don't know.
Britt Irvin, she's currently 35, so she would have been 25-ish when the movie was.
Oh, so younger.
Yeah.
Man, go figure. And her mom is a lot. She tells her, you know, that he's going to need a good wife, and you've got to take care of your husband and have a baby. And I felt like this was extremely unhelpful. She says, you're 17 and this is a job for a woman. Like, I get the tough talking, I guess, but this is it. This is happening.
Yeah.
So it's not really helpful to be like, you shouldn't have made these choices. Okay.
Like, it already happened.
Congratulations. Way to go.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I just feel like at this point you have to say, okay, like, what's your plan? What are we going to do? Are you going to, you know, you just have to figure out a way that, and as a supporter, like, the time for this kind of talk is over. Like, kind of, so you just have to, get to work. I don't know. No. I felt like I was just like, this is so unhelpful, this mother.
Yeah, she was, yeah. I was like, really? Like.
And so basically there's this dean so they get to Harvard, they're in married housing, and there's this dean woman. And what did you think of her?
Geez, like, she's awful. Like, right off the bat, she was like, you're not going to succeed in a letter the minute they get there. I'm like, all right, well, she just calm down. Like, I don't know if I have a different attitude because I went to a commuter school, but, like, I'm going to say half the people I knew had children and long-term significant others while going to school, and they did it. Yeah. Like, it's not, I didn't understand what her whole, I mean, I guess Harvard is a lot more prestigious. But I was like,
I would say it's more unusual for your freshman. It's just starting out. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was only 18. It's pretty unusual to be married and have a child. I can understand that. But again, this has already happened. So being unhelpful is just not like, so that you have to kind of accept people for who they are. And then, like, I get the tough talking, but, like, I guess I feel like you are just guaranteeing failure.
Yeah.
By this kind of attitude. Yeah. And she was just very, very tough, I guess. I don't know. Just, she was kind of the worst. It's like, why not give them as much a fighting chance as possible?
Yeah. She was very set in her ways.
Yeah.
At least. Yeah.
So his big struggle is calculus. I have never taken any form of calculus in my life.
Lucky lady.
Yeah.
I took it my senior year in high school, and that's how I decided not to be a math major, because you have to go up to calculus 3 to be a math major at my school, at least. And I was like, I can't do that. Like, I was great at math, and then I got to calculus, and I was like, nope, this is not it. But yeah, calculus it's no joke. I'm sure I would have done better in college than I did in high school if I would have taken calculus, but it's no joke. I don't recommend it. Or, I mean, if you have to take it, go for it. Like, a lot of people can do calculus, but don't take it for fun. Like,
so he also has a job. She gets a job. And she's very, very insecure about her appearance. She's insecure about not being smart enough. Just really, really insecure. You know, so but he immediately, like, sees the value in the fact that they're trying to create this family. Mm-hmm. He's sort of a convert to the whole idea of family from the very beginning. and he makes a friend who has this VW bus, and I thought he was kind of funny. His friend, I forget his name. I forgot to write it down. But basically, so she has the baby, and and I felt like they kind of treated it like it was a demon child. Like, the way it was so weird.
Like, babies cry, guys. Like, it happens.
Yeah, and she was just like, the baby hates me.
And some babies just cannot be settled. They just cry.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like you can't. I mean, I'm not a mom, but you can't take it to heart. Like,
yeah.
One of my nephews, he just liked to cry on me when I was babysitting him, and it, like, I know it killed me on the inside, but I wasn't ever gonna be like, I'm not gonna be your aunt anymore, because I know that's different, but because you keep crying at me.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah.
Well, and I don't know, just the way it was just, she was just kind of like, oh, the baby.
It's like she was scared of the baby.
Yeah. It's like it was Rosemary's Baby or something. It made me laugh.
Yeah.
And he can make the baby stop crying. And so she's really jealous about that. And she's just getting more and more resentful. Mm-hmm. And again, I think it was really hard I admire Britt Irvin in the performance, because I think it was really hard to, like, keep this character likable because of what she does. But I think they did a pretty good job of trying to show her perspective and just trying to show her immaturity. And I don't know, I mean, you definitely kind of still hated her, but it's a tough role.
Based on what she was given, I think she did a fantastic job.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think so too.
Character was like, I do not like this character. So
yeah. And so and then he is still struggling. He has to take calculus over again, or take calculus
number 2 or something.
Yeah, number 2. And they tell him to not do that. And the dean says, no, your limitations. And some of their fighting, I thought, could have been better. That was a weakness. And he's like, I don't have time for jokes, John. All the stuff. And I don't know, just some of their fighting, I thought it could have been better.
Yeah. I was like, I don't think this is supposed to be funny, but
yeah. And so she goes out to Boise with the baby, and he said, I miss you so much. Bring my family home. She comes back, and I guess it was like a disaster, and the baby just cried the entire time. And
the baby not like her. The baby apparently also does not like any of its family either.
Yeah. Only likes the father.
Yes, apparently.
That's it. John is the only one.
Yeah.
And so John notices that there's his blue bunny, and gives it to the baby, and she's like, I didn't even notice that the blue bunny wasn't even with us, and you noticed right away, and he hates me. The baby hates me. And so she leaves.
Mm-hmm.
She leaves.
Yeah. I'm sure in real life, because this is based on a true story, there was a lot more things that contributed to her leaving than the crying and the blue bunny. Because in the movie, it seemed like, I'm like, why? Wait, I was confused because it didn't all add up for me.
Well, I mean, also, it didn't really make sense, because she says, I knew you'd do the right thing and marry me. But from what they showed, their consummation in the grass was spontaneous. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there was no sense that the mean girl was right.
Yeah.
And that she had thought this through. This was not a planned pregnancy on her part. But then she's like apologizing as if it was some kind of devious thing for her, that she knew he'd do the right thing and marry me. Thing. I thought that was weird. Like, that makes her character way more unlikable if she like planned this to trap him or something.
Yeah.
It was weird. And she's like, I want to go home. I miss my crown. That was funny. And she says, only one of us is a parent right now, which was which was a pretty good line, because just because you have a child doesn't mean you're a parent.
Yeah.
But it's not like that's something that just came naturally. I mean, it did come naturally to John, but like, it's a lot of work. Like, you can't just, it's not like it's something that's just like, oh, I'm a parent. Like, you have to.
They don't come with a handbook.
Like, you have to make the decision and become a parent and work towards that. But she leaves him, and she misses her crown. That was funny to me.
I was about to be like, girl, let high school go.
I know.
Like, come on.
And they have a dramatic goodbye at the bus depot, and it was pretty emotional. And then I think this movie gets way better from this point out.
Gone.
Yeah, would you agree?
Yeah, I agree too, because I was like, okay. And then, then the fun parts happen, I guess. Not fun.
Well, yeah. So you get adorable scenes of the baby sleeping on top of him. That was so cute. Yeah. And that's always like, that is got to be like the sweetest moment of life, is whenever you end up with a baby sleeping on your shoulder or whatever. Oh, that is that is so cute. That was really cute. And and then he uses that baby born like 24/7. He gets full use. He even takes the baby with him to work, and he's checking people out and everything, and the baby's right there. And he ends up getting kicked out of his married student housing because now he's divorced. He's a single parent, and the dean and he finally like just tells her off, and he's like, you're the worst. And so he has to find an apartment, and so he meets Annie Potts' character, who was brought in a lot later than I thought.
Mm-hmm. She's on the poster, and I'm like,
I know.
Like, this movie's almost over.
Yeah, but I liked her. She was very sweet, and it was a sweet character. She plays the psychic, and she's got basically an apartment, an attic kind of apartment. And she becomes kind of a caregiver for the child, and just a sweet support system, and so that was really cool. And she does his fortune, John's fortune, and he wishes to be a good father, and says, you wished for something that has already come true, which was cute.
So sweet.
So
I like
cute.
That. I loved her character. Her character was like one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Yeah. And so he ends up having to take the baby to a test. And I guess like the sweet spot for this baby is to sing Wheels on the Bus. And so his Shakespeare teacher is his favorite. Mm-hmm. He loves the Shakespeare teacher. And so the teacher says, what's the favorite song? Because the baby's crying, and says, all right, kids, let's all stand up. We're all going to sing Wheels on the Bus, so that to help John's inexplicably present baby. And so they did. That was cute.
Like, that's so funny. Like, I thought that was so cute and so funny.
Yeah, it really was. It was so cute. And then so he's getting pretty discouraged, frustrated. And Annie Potts' character, she says, she takes him out to this wild lilac tree, and she says, lilacs grow despite being untended, and they come back every year, and that's what you're going to do. So you're going to grow out of this tough situation beautiful flowers, kind of the idea.
Yeah,
which was cute.
So sweet. That was really sweet.
Yeah. And so and the mom character's being super rude. I kind of wish they had kind of given just like a hint of a new relationship, like that would have been fun.
That would have been, more to the Hallmark we would have known, but
like, oh, here I'm going on this date, and then maybe at the graduation you see them sitting together or something.
Yeah,
that would have been cute. But so Adam gets sick, the baby gets sick, and so John hasn't gotten any sleep, and he ends up spilling the electrolyte stuff, and So he goes to the general store trying to find some, and the dean sees him trying to care for his baby. And I don't know, I guess maybe she thought that he was a bad caregiver before, because that like changes everything.
I guess it's like the whole believing is seeing thing. Like, did you
Yeah.
not think the baby existed or something?
Yeah. He's like, okay, you finally proven that I can be nice to you now because I saw you taking care of your child. I mean, I would go with the assumption that he's a good child care provider for his child, but and I mean, I guess some people just assume that women care for children better than men, but I don't think that's
not necessarily true.
I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
It just depends on the people involved. So and they end up meeting, and she says, she says, "You think I'm a snob, John, don't you?" He's like, "Yes, I do." And he had to give up on his calculus test, because he had been taking care of the baby. And so as she says, "You chose taking care of your son over the calculus test." It's like, yeah, lady, of course he did.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't know. She was weird. I hope that the real life dean was nicer.
I hope so too. Like, please.
You know, and be like, "You are a single father with a child. I'm going to be as mean to you as possible." Like, what?
Like, from the beginning, she's like, "I'm not going to give you a chance."
Yeah, she was the worst. So they're like, "Harvard, we help our students, and that honorable men deserve a second chance, and Harvard is giving you one." Which, again, I don't really understand why it took her this long, and why she was weird. But nevertheless, they're going to give him a stipend. They're going to help him out. It's going to be amazing. And we get our graduation at the end, and it's now been like 3 or 4 years, and so Adam's like 5.
Mm-hmm.
And so there we go. He did it. He's the freshman father. And he graduated.
I was surprised, like, even at the graduation, the baby's mom wasn't even there, and I was like,
yeah,
okay, well, he did
I
it all
know.
himself the whole time. That's amazing. Like,
yeah. So they never got back together, and it is very different from the Hallmark movie that you see today. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was sweet, especially post her Kathy leaving. The movie is, I almost wish it had been just him as a freshman father at the beginning, and with maybe like a montage backstory. I think maybe that might have been better, but
I was expecting her to leave like in the first 30 minutes, not over halfway through the movie.
Yeah,
because of the way they set it up. I was like, this is going on and on and on, and I'm like, is she gonna, especially since it was called Freshman Father and she wasn't even on the poster. I was like, okay,
yeah,
something has to happen. Like, my assumption was she was gonna die in childbirth. That's what I thought. Because I didn't read any backstory or anything on it, and I'm like, she's not on the poster, and I'm like, we're like 30 minutes in the movie, maybe she's gonna die in childbirth, and that's gonna be it. But no, like, she was there. She just kept. I was like,
the baby just hates her.
Oh my goodness. We neither of us are parents, so we don't necessarily understand exactly. But at the same time, I was like, okay, a baby crying, really?
Yeah, I mean, it's very, 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 very stressful.
It's stressful and definitely disheartening, but at the same time, I was like, I don't think there was enough, like, they gave us enough.
But, well, I mean, it's very, very stressful, but for most people, they have just like a huge love for their child that makes it worth it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what they were trying to show, but like her sort of the whole like baby's possessed and hates me plot was
it was different. Just a weird way to show it. I think.
Yeah, it was a weird way to show it.
The plot was strange.
But nevertheless, I liked the movie. It's not like great, but it's pretty cute. I give it like 3.25.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it like 3 crowns.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah,
average.
3 around.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, very exciting. Congratulations to Amy for graduating from college. That's a huge life goal, huge accomplishment. So let us know if you are a graduate. Congratulations to you. And let us know your experience in all of this and what you have coming up and whatever. Just share with us your thoughts. And if you've seen this movie, let us know what you think. And Amy, where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at It's Amy Craig.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. And make sure you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media and iTunes, YouTube. And if you're listening on iTunes, please give us your ratings and reviews. And if you're watching on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We so appreciate that as well. And then, and let us know if you have any bonuses, extra things that you'd like us to do. We would love your thoughts and feedback. And we also have our Patreon group, which is super fun. Please consider checking that out and supporting the podcast. We also have our merch store, which has some really fun designs. And so check that out. That'll be a link in the description. So thanks so much. Congratulations once again. And congrats to all the grads. Yay. 2020. Yay.
2020. Congrats.
And we'll talk to you all later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.